If you hope to only ever take pro wrestling seriously, you're never going to last. Even today we have characters that are meant to be dead people roaming the earth, so there's no point pretending that everything you see should be mature adult content. Even when we did have that, porn stars gave up their 9 to 5 to wrestle. The beauty of wrestling is that at its heart, it's absolutely bonkers. That doesn't mean some people in charge don't know where to draw the line. I'm all for silliness and nonsense, but when the scales tip too far in the opposite direction, it's almost impossible to justify being a fan, especially if someone new to the product is sat by your side. Why did that man just pretend to have sex with a dead mannequin is not a question that has any justifiable answer. You just have to shrug your shoulders and remember wrestling has forsaken you once more. I'm Simon from WhatCulture, and this is the 10 most bizarre wrestling matches of all time. Number 10, the King of the Road match at WCW Uncensored 1995. I'm all for creativity and thinking outside the box, truly I am. If we didn't do that, we wouldn't have been treated to some truly wonderful moments throughout the years, and I'd rather promoters try than just stuck to the basic format. It's fun! However, when WCW tried to do a King of the Road match Uncensored in 1995, it was so bad, both people involved got fired. Well, not really, but still, it's not an outcome that anybody wanted, and it went like this. Two wrestlers, Dustin Rhodes and Blacktop Bully, would fight on the back of a massive truck and essentially try to mix the world of movie fight sequences with wrestling. There was a cage-like structure, mostly to stop them falling into the road, and there was even blood, which made sense. This was basically just two men beating each other up on a moving vehicle, so it's unlikely either one would walk away scot-free. Unfortunately, World Championship Wrestling had a no-blood policy at the time, meaning Rhodes and Bully were both released from their contracts, even though they later claimed the officers said this would be fine. Think of this too, what was supposed to be going on in the driver's head? They were either blissfully aware, or didn't give two craps that a couple of wrestlers were brawling just meters behind them. Really weird this. Number 9, Vince McMahon vs Stephanie McMahon at WWE No Mercy 2003. Need I say more? Apart from the fact this would never happen in 2018, you can always enjoy the knowledge that this was an I Quit match and that clearly Vince McMahon will literally do anything for the business. Fair play to him, I guess. In case that wasn't strange enough, go and watch the thing. Not only do you get to see Vince choking his daughter with a lead pipe as his eyes bulge out of his head like his brain is about to explode, but the CEO also throws Linda to the ground and makes out with Sable when all is said and done. Why wouldn't this be a thing? Now personally, I can think of about 65,876 reasons, but what do I know? Nothing. Clearly. Vince won because of course, and all of this is proper uncomfortable viewing that, don't forget, was both devised and agreed to by all parties involved. 2003 was a strange time for WWE as the Attitude Era cooled off and new times arrived on the scene. If this was indeed the direction that was planned, I don't think going PG was that bad at all. Number 8, the Good Housekeeping match at WWF No Mercy 1999. If you go back and watch late 90s WWE today, the overwhelming feeling you'll come away from it thinking is how offensive and bad taste a lot of the segments with women are. It's a good thing the company's revolution did come, because this is almost unwatchable today. Some of the things they did. In 1999 though, Chyna was kind of a trendsetter in WWE. Physical enough that she could tussle with the men, the ninth wonder of the world clashed with Jeff Jarrett at No Mercy that year in a Good Housekeeping match. Why was it a Good Housekeeping match? Because Jarrett's gimmick at the time was that he was a huge misogynist. This is also the night where Jeff is rumoured to have held Vince McMahon up for more money in order to do the job before he went over to WCW, and also where both competitors smashed each other in the head with a variety of household items. There was an ironing board, a broom, a pie. Chyna would win, which is probably the only outcome viable, but again, take a step back and it's quite hard to figure out what this even was. A couple of tough guys throwing powder in each other's faces. Right. Number 7, the 4 Doinks run riot at WWF Survivor Series 1993. Doink the Clown is weird. You either love him or hate him, but never forget the original Matt Bourne version actually had mad potential. That was like some devil clown before WWE turned him babyface and he became classic mid-card happy clappy fodder. At the 1993 Survivor Series, however, all of this took another bizarre turn. Why? Because on one side of the ring was Bam Bam Bigelow, the Head Shrinkers and Bastion Booger, and on the other, Men on a Mission, the Bushwhackers. Because this is wrestling though, this standard team elimination match was like watching wrestling on drugs, as all the good guys wore doink wigs and face paint. This all tied into the match, I guess, because the bad guys would slip on banana peels, Bastion Booger ate some Thanksgiving turkey, while the Bushwhackers rode around the ring on push scooters, because of course they did. This was a surefire sign that the then WWF was ramping up the cartoon nonsense to try and appeal to kids, even though out of context, this looked terrifying. Probably gave some people nightmares. Number 6, the Chamber of Horrors at WCW Halloween Havoc 1991. WCW liked a bit of nonsense in the early 90s. Before the NWO made them edgy and cool, World Championship Wrestling was more like a weird friend that you enjoyed talking to for a while, but soon wanted a break from. You just never knew what they were going to come out with. So in 1991, when management wanted something different to open Halloween Havoc, the Chamber of Horrors was created. Really just a massive cage where the goal was to get someone in the chair of torture and electrify them. And you heard that right. El Gianti teamed with Sting and the Steiner brothers to face Abdullah the Butcher, the Diamond Stud, Big Van Vader, and Cactus Jack. Given that this was WCW, there was even more stupidity when cameras caught the switch in the on position, meaning Mick Foley had to turn it off before accidentally frying Abdullah. But hey, at least they tried, and watching it today is hilarious. It's so goofy and, wait for it, electrifying. Sorry. Number 5, the Kennel from Hell at WWF Unforgiven 1999. Don't work with children or dogs. It's a long-touted rule in the entertainment industry, mostly because you can't control either. WWE rarely goes near the former, but at Unforgiven 1999, the latter was the focal point of an entire match. Seeing the Big Boss Man and Al Snow fight it out in a Hell in a Cell after Boss Man had fed Al's own pup to him, which is just outrageous when you think about it, the dog theme continued here, or in short, numerous attack dogs were positioned around ringside. Because they're not human beings though, they spent most of the time pissing everywhere and humping one another. So in that sense, at least they were having a good time. I don't think anybody else was at all. None of this worked as Snow and the policeman tried to deal with the ever-escalating problem of these mutts, and today it's one of those, oh yeah moments. Shout out to Al Snow though. My hero. Number 4, the San Francisco 49ers match at WCW Monday Nitro. Happening in October 2000, or around 6 months before Vince McMahon just bought WCW outright, this was a period where in a desperate attempt to make anything work, the company was seemingly pulling ideas out of their ass. For example, here, the Nitro was headlined by the first ever San Francisco 49ers match as Booker T took on Jeff Jarrett. The world title was also on the line, even by this point it was worth absolutely nothing, although you wouldn't know it if you just tuned in at the start of the contest. The previous champion had been Vince Russo, who had very kindly vacated the belt to allow for this fight. That makes me sick. As for the bout itself, it was just bizarre, hence why it's in this list. Resembling some kind of kid's toy, the title was placed in one box and there were 4 other boxes in total, 3 holding weapons and 1 containing the gold. The object was to beat up your opponent and then open the crates one by one, and at one point, Booker T found a framed promo pic of Scott Hall. Yep. The stupid thing here is that Booker and Jarrett could have had a perfectly fine match if it wasn't for all this gimmickry going on around it. But that's Russo's WCW for you. No filter, no boundaries, no clue. Number 3, the hardcore evening gown match at WWF King of the Ring 2000. I'll never quite understand how Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe were able to be both respected, tough, ahead of their time pro wrestlers, as well as goofy sidekicks to Vince McMahon that were stupidly entertaining. It doesn't make any sense. Stooges throughout the Attitude Era and fondly remembered for that, the issue was always going to be if WWE knew where to draw the line. If you're a long-term fan, you know the line is usually so far off in the distance, the company doesn't even realize it exists. Hence why at the King of the Ring 2000, Patterson and Briscoe squared off in an evening gown match for the hardcore title. In short, this was 2 elderly men rolling around in women's clothing in the hope that such an attraction would help sell pay-per-views. Maybe it did, and if you were someone who bought King of the Ring for this, then good for you. It only lasted a few minutes before others ran in to exploit the 24/7 rule of the hardcore title at the time, and once you see it, you can never unsee it. Probably best to stay away in general. Number 2, Judy Bagwell on a forklift at WCW New Blood Rising 2000. I joke about this match so much that you think I'd just have accepted it by now, but that's not true, in any sense. I still laugh every time I think about it, and wonder how on earth this ever even got to the design stages, let alone green lit. It's the ultimate piece of evidence that WCW just stopped giving a shit. Featuring a match between Kanyon and, of course, Buff Bagwell, Vince Russo's big idea was to put the latter's fake mum on a forklift with the threat of her impending death if Buff lost. Originally, it was meant to be Mrs. Bagwell on a pole, but that didn't work from a logistics standpoint. Why am I even saying these words? Buff won, keeping his mother alive, which also meant she stayed on TV way past her welcome. It's a shame, really, because if Russo's originality had matched up to things fans actually wanted to see, WCW would still be here today. Instead, there's assholes like me wondering how any of this happened to begin with. Rest in peace. Number 1, the turkey on a pole match at AWA All-Star Wrestling on November 26, 1989. What the f*** the deal with on a pole matches in wrestling. It doesn't make any sense again. Why do I want to see two people fighting over something on a pole? But apparently I do, because aside from recent years, they happen all the damn time. Going back in time though, in 1989 the once great AWA was on its last legs. 2 years later they'd be dead, and the reason may be that Vern Gagne decided a turkey on a pole match would get everyone revved up and excited. It did not. Trying to tap into Thanksgiving traditions, Colonel Deebers faced Jake the Milkman Millman, and it kept getting worse and worse when the announcers were told to sell this idea like it was going to change pro wrestling forever. Like the milkman getting his hands on the bird first would revolutionize life as we know it. What would have been a better summary was the company were out of ideas. In reality, it's quite sad to see the promotion so far down the pecking order given how important it had been to the industry, but that is entertainment for you.